Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a 2023 computer-animated superhero film featuring the Marvel Comics character Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man. It's a sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the Academy Award-winning Best Animated Feature from 2018, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This film, directed by Joaquin DeSantos, Ken Powers, and Justin Thomas, from a script by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller with David Callahan, features the voice work of Shameik Moore and Haley Steinfeld in the lead roles, but it also features Brian Tyree Henry, Lauren Velez, Jake Johnson, Jason Schwartzman, Issa Rae, Karen Sani, Shea Wiggum, Greta Lee, Daniel Kaluuya, Oscar Isaac, Mahershala Ali, in a film that was the #1 film this past week in the box office, grossing over $120 million in 3 days this weekend. And joining us, Vincent and I, for our review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the one, the only DARRYL CHARLES of the DTF Fun Hour and the sexiest comedian in America. What's up, DARRYL?
That's what we do. I shaved for this. Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate the warm words and the kindness, and also the seat between y'all at the screening that we were at for Spider-Man.
It's a good time. Good time.
It was a great time. I've seen it again. Did you see it again?
I have seen it again.
I have also seen it again.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I mean, we all kind of said that when we walked out. It was like, yeah, I can't wait to see this again.
Yeah.
So,
and then we didn't wait.
Spoils the review, right?
We should probably put a disclaimer on top, though.
Yes.
Because this is the review that we will have, and we review films in its entirety. This episode is being taped less than a week after it's come out.
Yes.
So perhaps people have not seen it yet. It is a film that I think we can all agree you should see without knowing, like you should know as least as possible going in.
Yes, you should.
I think it is also safe to assume, I haven't spoken to either of them, but I'm going to speak for them. All three of us heartily recommend it if that's what you're waiting for.
Yeah.
But this will be a spoiler-filled review. If you've not seen it, turn us off. Go listen to the review of Enter the Spider-Verse. Come back, we'll be here.
Well, don't turn it off just yet.
Don't turn You know, as soon as I said turn it off, they oh my Lord, and then they turned it off.
Yeah.
Now they go turn it back on like,
So for the three of you in our families who are still watching, don't turn it off just yet, because we're going to start with just our thoughts in general on the film before we then get into the spoilers.
Thoughts?
Yes, we like it.
They fold in spoilers.
Well, I think you could still kind of, at least, we recommend the movie, but let's put it this way. Outside of without spoiling the film, is there one thing, if the three of us can come up with at least one thing that we would say to recommend the reason why people should see this movie?
It's a well done piece of art. The colors, the animation, the way that they're able to juggle the different styles of animation, like they hinted at it in the first one, they mastered it for the second one. I will say that.
Yeah.
I think it's a lovely family film with some really good messaging, especially given the attacks on some identities today. It all has to do with identity and fitting in. And I think that it's a great message. And I think that, I was saying when we watched it, I was like, I can't wait for terrible white men to jump all over this movie. I think and so that's where I'll go with it.
It's amazing to me. I was noting that this was the #1 film in the country this year. The number 2 film is The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, how about that?
So how about that? It's two black leads leading the two number 2.
Well, the funny thing, the theater that I went to for the second viewing, it was a lot of black folks.
Yeah,
like a lot of black families.
Yeah,
and I assumed everyone was going to funnel into, the Spider-Verse film, but you actually saw the wave split.
Yeah.
And, it was like waves of little girls and a smattering of boys going into The Little Mermaid and a wave of little boys with a smattering of girls going into Spider-Verse. And
I know.
So everybody had their own film. I think this is not surprisingly, I think surprisingly because of how we think about animation, well-made and mature script.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I think the script is so well done. And I would, and I think obviously the animation is the big selling point because it's just, it really is a masterpiece. But I think the script is what's going to keep people watching this again and again.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. And we can touch on, because Darryl brought up about like how the animation styles and the colors of it. We'll touch on that as we get deeper into the film. But the thing that I will say to recommend is that if you only go by the trailers and the commercials for the movies, it seems that there is a lot of attention paid to the idea that Spider-Man is running around with a whole bunch of Spider-Men around him, right? And this is just Easter Egg City as far as movies goes. And it is Easter Egg City. But one of the fears that you had, or at least that I had, going into this movie was that coming off of the success of a Spider-Verse movie, for them now to be doing the sequel and then also focusing around the Spider-Verse, was that they would lose Miles in the movie, right? And he just become one of the tapestry. But he still is very much prominent in this movie. And he is, not only is he prominent, but there is even more built up into his family structure as well. You spend time with his mom, his father. You actually spend time with a couple more of his relatives as well to see both sides of their family. And I think, to Darryl's point, with so many, things in regards to identity and how we live and who we are being attacked in this country right now, I think for the number 1 film in the country to be a film that embraces who we are truly and puts it with absolutely no caveat, no harness, no excuses, right there, full blown and beautiful colors on the movie screen, is something to celebrate and something to champion people going to the movies to say.
All right.
Also, given what you said, like, I don't think this happened in the first movie. I need to watch it again. But like, there were scenes where it was just his mom and dad talking.
Yeah.
Without Miles, and they were talking about trying to raise him, and I was like, oh man, like I know that they were pulling at the heartstrings about parenthood and about watching your child become an adult and all that stuff, and I was like, oh man, if I had kids, I'd probably be tearing up right now. But I've made better decisions.
Oh God! All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want to be spoiled on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, pause the podcast now and return to it after you see the film. Trust me, you will be rewarded for doing it this way.
All right.
We are about to go in.
Yes.
All right. Darryl.
Yeah.
What you got to say about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
I cannot wait for the third movie. I think that this, like, oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
Like the way, like, okay, so the way the movie starts is pretty much directly as this first movie ended, but it starts with Gwen. So it it doesn't go over her backstory, but it goes into Gwen's universe.
Exactly.
To talk about what she did up until the point at the end of the first movie. She opens up a portal and says, "Hey, what you doing?" Right? Like that's how the first movie ends. So like just the continuity, the attention to detail to do that. It's just like
Yeah.
And then they end it with the entire multiversal ensemble, the multiversal Avengers jumping in to go and save him. Come on, man.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if you thought about it. I didn't even know that they were planning a third one. I had no idea that that's what was going to happen. And I was sitting there in the last few minutes, one, checking my watch, being like, my parking's about to run out. But two, being like, how are they going to wrap this up?
Right.
A friend of mine actually told me that they did let out that there was going to be a third film, but I purposefully had stayed away from like any stories about stuff. Sure. Like once I first saw the first trailer, I was like, all right, I want to see the movie. I never even watched the trailer again. I said, I know I'm in. I'm good. Y'all got me. I don't need to see nothing. Right? I don't need to read nothing. I don't need nothing. I'm going in cold. But when you live in the world of comic books and stuff like that, and I do another podcast that talks about comic books, you kind of know that type of stuff. But I too did not know that there was going to be another movie. So the whole time I'm watching it, as I'm realizing like there's a lot of story that's going, and we'll go over the story, but it's like, yo, this movie been going on a little while.
Yeah.
And shit ain't wrapping up. Like they still introducing stuff. I'm like, they are not going to finish this movie. They are not. I'm sitting there like, they're not going to part two. Are they going to part two? Oh my God, are they going to part? I am so anxious because I want all of those kids that were in that theater, especially our second time watching, the second time I watched it with a regular audience. I want all of those kids that had the same feeling that I had back in 1980, when I went to see Empire Strikes Back, and you saw Han Solo put into carbonite?
Carbonite, that's right.
And you were like, and the movie went off, and I'm like, are you out of your mind? What? Yeah. What? No. And I wanted to hear that gasp from the kids.
Yeah.
But kids are so trained that there was the gasp, and then they were like, okay, Spider-Man, we with you, Spider-Man.
Well, because like Empire Strikes Back, which, was my immediate, because I knew it was going to be 3 parts.
Oh, you knew?
Yeah, I knew. And my concern was it was just going to be kind of this elongated thing that the suits had gotten involved, and we're going to make as much money as we can off of this.
Sure.
I was concerned that the second film wouldn't be its own entity.
Okay, fair enough.
And of these trilogies that we've all kind of lived through, I can't think of another one after Empire Strikes Back, which frankly, I think happened much more organically than things have happened over the past 20 years. This is a distinct movie experience. So that much like Empire Strikes Back, where, even the most casual Star Wars fan will say Empire is the best one. And people watch Empire by itself. I don't know if this will be better than the third one. Like, at this point, I don't think you should have any reservations about the Spider-Verse team. Sure. Like, just trust them that they know what they're doing, and they're going to do things better than anyone has done it.
Right.
But if this is the best of the 3, I think this lives by itself.
Yeah.
From now on.
Yeah.
Because it ends on a quote unquote cliffhanger, but it ends much like the Empire Strikes Back ends, where things are unresolved, but you've had a full film experience.
You feel full.
Yeah.
Like the character progression and growth has happened for those people. They've all moved on, and they've all grown from the experiences they had in the movie. It is satisfying in that way. And then it's like, oh man, like I think that the whole third movie is going to be a fight. Like it's just going to be one fight.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't see them taking no breaks in the third movie.
Right.
I don't see how, but well, obviously there's many multiverses in the spot and all that crap. But
yeah.
Right.
You spoke about how the movie opens up in Gwen's world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is their first opportunity to do, like what you said, was create this totally different palette and animation style in all of the different worlds that they journey to. Because as opposed to the first one where like these other spider entities came and visited into Miles' world. Miles is now going to these different worlds, and each of them has a different language, a different color palette. Starting with Gwen's, which is very like heavy watercolors.
Yeah.
And the watercolors kind of like speak to the mood that she's going
very
through.
Moody.
Very moody, atmospheric. But that.
And pretty much the colors of the trans flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And I mean, like, I don't want to, it's not a bad critique, but like they were heavy handed in the subtext of Gwen's entire thing being a parallel for the trans existence. But I thought that was just a beautiful note.
I mean, so much of it is like I thought it was really notable that at the end, when Miles is about to tell what he thinks is his mother, his secret identity, Lauren Valez's vocal performance and the way the film like the way it's set up, it looks like a coming out moment.
Yeah.
Like you get the sense that she thinks he's about to tell her that he's gay. So I think you're right that so much of this is tied up that you can see these parallels, these different parallels of identity throughout.
Yeah.
And like we say about these master filmmakers, and even though this is very early work by a lot of these directors.
Joaquin DeSantos, like he made his bones on animated cartoons. I think yeah, he's noted for he's on Justice League, Avatar, The Last Airbender, Korra.
Yeah. Justin Thompson is really known as a production designer. And but I don't think it's hyperbole to say that these are three directors who are in control of every aspect.
And Ken Powers, what he
co-directed Soul. Right. So that I think this multi-level symbolism is deliberate.
Oh yeah. And well handled. Like it's not clunky. It doesn't interfere with like action sequences or
not at all.
Bring the movie to a terrible halt. I will say this: when I watched the second time, I watched it with my wife, and we went regular public, and there were kids just talking and cracking up like teenagers being teenagers during the movie, and I was like, man, I'm so happy we don't have kids. And my wife was like, no, you have to remember the teenage boys started goofing around at every emotional point in the movie.
Oh, really?
Because they can't be emotional in front of their friends.
They're uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right. That discomfort made them joke around. And I was like, because it did match. Because it was like the action sequences, everybody quiet. But then when it got into the feelings and the emotions and like the interplay between Gwen and her dad was just like, oh man, just talk about acting, man. It was doing it.
Yeah. That's Haley Steinfeld and Shea Wiggum as her father. That actually like really got me, especially the way that, again, with the colors and everything, right? And also with the colors, but also just with the transitions. There's a cool transition early when Gwen leaves her house and you see her walking the street.
Yeah. And
then she passes one person. The camera is still behind her as she's walking the street. She passes one person and almost effortlessly she's on the subway now.
Yeah.
That is actually thinking as a cinematographer, but then folding in the advantage that animation gives you. Allowing you to do that, man. And it was so beautifully handled, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that moment still stays with me. I see it all.
Well, and I think in a lot of ways, I love the decision to bookend it with Gwen's voice.
Yeah.
Because it really speaks to something. Because I'm an unabashed Miles Morales fan, like the comic books, the whole deal. And I think what keeps drawing me to him as a character is I see this real tension in this character, this Miles Morales character, because so much of Spider-Man, which, I thought it was such a great decision, because I think about it all the time, that they deal with in the movie, that tragedy is so much a part of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. Like from the very beginning, he is defined by these tragedies. It's the tears of a clown. It's everything. But Miles Morales, as this real 21st century creation, is like the personification of Black boy joy.
Right.
So like, how do you reconcile this Black boy joy with this kind of Spider-Man weight?
Right.
And
the pathos of Spider-Man.
And when you I love that you get that like 10-minute sequence with Spider-Gwen where you see the price that she's paid, that you see, and then so that when the Rakim drops, and it's just bright poppy, and it's just the Miles Morales world, and it's it's just such. I just love his Brooklyn so much. Like, I love the fact that for the first couple of shots, he's just in the background.
Yeah.
He's just he's just part of this
just a
world.
spot.
He's just energy, and he's pure, and he's effervescent, and and then when you see him, he's a teenage boy.
Yeah.
He needs something to eat. And then he cracks jokes. But because you've had this grounding of Gwen, you have that kind of hanging over it.
Yeah.
Like one thing that I thought that really struck me the very first time we saw it is when he's in this kind of madcap kind of tussle with the Spot.
Yeah.
And he and his father, and it's almost like something out of Buster Keaton. And his father falls, and then he saves him, but it's played very comedically. Yeah. Like he just kind of sets him up. But his dad almost died just now.
Right.
Like his dad almost died just now. But this is, as the film tells you, he's not gone through this canonical moment.
Right.
They kind of, they reinforce it with Provitere, the Indian Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
How as soon as he says being Spider-Man is the easiest thing on earth, oh, you haven't been Spider-Man that long.
Right.
And you hear it.
Right. And then sure enough, you hear. So I love the fact that the film is grappling with that. Like I love the fact that not only are these great animators, not only are these great directors, these are people that have thought about this character and thought about Spider-Man and thought about these themes.
Yeah.
That, many of us over the years have pulled, kind of, we inferred it and we put this on it, but now so much of the subtext gets to be the text.
Right.
And you get these, you almost don't want to call them set pieces. Like,
the action
like
beats.
the action, I love when Gwen says, it's like they have the first set piece in the museum where the film lets we're also making art.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
and the film is actually making a commentary on the art as it like falls in the music's like, ooh, yeah, I like that.
Right. I think that's a Banksy. Yeah, it's just man. They really and that's the part about it. Like, I think that all of these superhero movies are best executed when they use like the idea that they're superheroes, the idea that we're in this fantasy comic book world is just the world that they live in, and then we get to tell stories on top of that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like The Winter Soldier is a great spy movie, as regardless of super serums and Captain America and Shield. Right. The Ant-Man movies are heist movies, regardless of the fact that you can shrink and all that stuff. This movie is like a meditation on Spider-Man, and like, you know, are you defined by your pain, or are you defined by your hope for the future?
Right.
And that is I want every child to watch that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And think about that, because it's such a great point to bring up.
Just a coda to your story. You suspect the teenagers that were joking because they were uncomfortable because they were with each other. You know they're going to watch this by themselves, though.
I was just about to say that same thing.
Yeah,
they're going to watch it by themselves, and they're going to see it. They're going to. It's going to hit them, and they're going to really like reconcile with it. You know, because
don't make them hug their moms or something like that.
Yo, it will, man. It will. It'll make you hug your mom and make you look at your dad a little differently, man. There is. You talked about like the commentary that it has on parenting in this film, which it is rife with, but none of the parents are perfect.
Right.
They are all it's amazing to me that in a cartoon the parents are real. They feel like just like real parents, a real couple. Yeah. You know, how they interacted with one another. Like just everything just
struggling.
Just felt so and you know, Shameik Moore and Haley Steinfeld, they kill it in the lead roles.
Absolutely.
As Miles Morales.
Oh yeah.
And Gwen Stacy. You just talked about Lauren Velez. But for me, the voice that just kept hitting me was Brian Tyree Henry as his father.
Yeah.
Like, because dude, if he did not sound like my dad, I don't know if he sounded like your dad. He sound like every dad, man.
He's doing the best he can.
Yes.
He's doing the best he can.
He's doing the best he can. I was, and to be honest, he sounded like me sometimes when you're thinking about you dealing with my daughter. I was like living in that moment, man. And I was, especially the moment, such a good moment where he is talking to Spider-Man about Miles.
Yeah.
I was like, that is great. Like, maybe you just gotta let him sweat his
Right.
What? I do, you know what? And that's another. The thing that takes the movie from just being good to being great is all the small things. But I do love the fact that both Gwen and Miles just lower their voice when they're speaking to their parents.
Right, that's their disguise.
Yeah. It's just fun to see, like, Haley Steinfeld's voice being like, just stay there, Captain.
Right. And let me ask y'all a question, because again, watch one trailer, that was it.
Right.
I had no idea who the villain in this movie was.
No.
But if I had known that the villain was the Spot, who maybe is pulled from the comics, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a deep pull.
Okay,
it's definitely a pull.
Because I kind of remember him in a Daredevil comic.
Right, but it's a pretty deep pull. It's a pretty
and it was a pull that they pulled, and they definitely played around with. Because if you had told me that the Spot was the villain, the main villain in this, I'd be like, okay, let's see how this is going to work.
All right.
They made
he thought he was the villain of the week.
They made the Spot maybe the villain of the year because they made him work.
Look, again, when you have the Spot after Spider-Gwen's sort of existential exploration of the sacrifices and I don't have any friends and this, that, and the other, and, you know, he's madcap. But there is, like, I thought he was perfect because in each part of the film, he fit.
Yes.
Like that early part, again, it's just sort of screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, you have the great visual gags. But even that moment with the bread falling out is a little disturbing.
It just...
It's, yeah.
It's want to say that again?
Yeah, it's a little It's a little kind of...
Just a hint of what's to come.
It's just a hint of what's to come. So that when he progresses to that final image.
Yeah. Talk about playing around with it.
With a little bit of white.
Yeah.
'Cause remember, he starts out white with black splotches. He turns around and it's like, and it shows the gravity of the situation. Like you're genuinely scared of this villain and what he can do. I can't wait for the third movie.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that while he is the Spot in the beginning, the whole movie is really the origin of the Spot that he is to come. And he just becomes more ominous and dangerous throughout the movie until the point where, like, yo, we got to take this dude seriously.
Yeah.
Because now he's about to mess some stuff up.
Right. Yeah.
Most definitely, man. Oh my God. You said that this is a movie, we're big in here selling the movie and we're selling it for like the bigger themes.
Sure.
But like we said, it's the Spider-Verse. It's an Easter egg delight.
Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, I was like, they must have somebody on staff just reading comics.
Oh, absolutely. And what a job.
What a job.
What a job. Because there, there are deep cuts. There are more recent cuts.
Mm-hmm.
There are fan favorite cuts. There, it's and I love the fact that you got the sense that if they train the camera on any of them, they could be an actual character.
Yeah.
Because I was looking forward to Spider-Punk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because I like he's a fairly new character, like from the past 3 or 4 years.
Right.
But there is absolutely no way I thought that we would have this.
I know. Hobie Brown, Spider-Punk, voiced by Daniel Kaluuya.
How?
I mean, out here just being as dazzling as he's been in every other thing I've seen him in.
How amazing is this character?
How are you even cooler underneath your mask?
How are you even cooler under the mask? Actually, I've been this cool the whole time. I said, you know what, man? You are.
You are, dog.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah, I was not ready for him either, man.
And again, I think this is a film that's going to reward you viewing after viewing after viewing.
Dude, there are people who are stopping, like they can't wait to be able to stop this drawing.
Because even with the second viewing, what you realize is that Hobie Brown, from the very moment he comes on the screen, is setting up helping Miles.
Exactly.
Yeah, he knows he's the one from the moment he shows up.
Like he's pulling the stuff off the wall, I'm like, right, because he's going to build his own. Like he's like the most Spider of the Spider-Men.
Yep.
Like he's joking in this snap, but he's like, pay attention to this hand, and then this hand is doing the work.
Yes, I did peep that.
Loved him so much.
I loved him so much. Who I also loved, and I could have done with a lot more of, because it was a total reworking, at least as far as I know, of the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman character.
Yeah.
Because this Spider-Woman rides a motorcycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is badass and black.
Yes.
And Issa Rae, I loved every bit of it.
Well, if we have to dig into the comics.
Is that Jessica Drew black in the comics?
No, that Jessica Drew is based on a redesign from the Jessica Drew is white in the comics, but she was pregnant and she did have a motorcycle. But that Jessica Drew with the afro is, I believe, a reference to, do you remember the Spidey comic, the Spidey Reader comics? from the 70s.
I read this. Yes. That was the Spidey from the Electric Company.
From the Electric Company.
Did the comic book adaptation.
Version.
Yes.
There was a one-off of I think she was a librarian.
Yes.
And she had a big afro and she was a Spider-Woman. And she actually predated Jessica Drew.
Right.
So the first Spider-Woman was actually black. And I believe that was a reference to her.
I did read somewhere that they think that it was a reference that they haven't had anybody confirm it yet. But I did read that. Yo, damn, that's a deep cut, man.
Look.
That's the deepest cut.
Look, I was going to say this to the end, but we talking. I have one note. I have one note for this entire film, and I'm almost certain that they're keeping it for the third one. Manga Spider-Man strolled down the hallway in one scene.
Yes.
Penny Parker obviously is the more current anime Spider-Man. I need Japanese Spider-Man to show up from the 70s with the big robot.
With the big robot.
And the armband.
I don't know, man.
I believe he'll show up for the third one.
I don't know. That's it. That might be a good one.
And we do know the Spider-Verse team are missionaries. So if you all haven't...
Yes, Phil Lord is definitely a follower of the show.
Phil, I'm assuming that Japanese Spider-Man is going to show up in the third one. If he doesn't, then y'all kind of make sure Japanese Spider-Man shows up in the third one. Please and thank you.
If Japanese Spider-Man shows up in the third one, and then there's a quick little caption next to it, it's like, "You're welcome, Vincent." I'm gonna die. I'm actually gonna die. I was just happy that I saw the spider buggy. When I saw the spider buggy, I was like, "Yo, I am with it. I'm done."
Peter Park car.
Peter Park car.
Park. That's a solid pun.
Right. I know. I know. I was tickled. I was tickled.
Is the Spider-Man from the video game is in there?
Yes. Yes.
The bag man Spider-Man is like, I mean,
that's a deep cut too.
That's a pretty deep cut.
Bagman Spider-Man. Yeah. They even have fun with 1967 Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's the way he comes swinging.
And his legs, he cramps up.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was so...
It's just a love letter.
It's a love...
it's also a love letter.
But
to this.
But like we said, it's a love letter that doesn't get in the way of the story. Because because as much as the Spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman, giving everybody...
Does great work.
Does great work.
Yeah.
Does great work. Because he sells the comedy,
yeah,
but he also sells the villainy.
Yeah.
Right? But as much as we're caping for him, the other kind of antagonist in this movie is Miguel Herrera, Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaacs. And Oscar Isaacs long ago became a favorite actor of mine. And yo, that work is killer because you get his motivation.
Absolutely,
you 100% get his motivation. You
yeah,
kind of side with him a little bit. You can see somebody. You can see why everybody rallies around him and sees him as, because he leads the Spider Society,
right?
And you can see why he leads the Spider Society. One, because he's kind of like the Spider-Man of these Spider-Men, but two, because of his backstory and how tragic it is. And Oscar Isaac sells it and kills it in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens to him in the third movie. And you see the change in Spider-Woman at the end when Gwen is like, we're supposed to be the good guys. You know what I mean? Like that, man. Yeah. They did a good job.
Yeah. My one note about this movie, and I actually saw it played out a little bit on the internet because I was curious about this, is that there seems to be an ongoing issue with the sound of the movie when you're watching the movie. I saw that because I felt it honestly when we were watching the movie. That I was like, oh, this sound doesn't sound mixed very well. It sounds some moments sound very low, some moments sound a little loud and stuff like that. but we went to a press screening, so I was like, all right, well, maybe. But when I went to see it again, some of those same issues were there, which then prompted me to go online, and I saw that Phil Lord actually did a tweet about making sure that your theater is showing this with like the audio set at a certain level, something like
set
that,
up a certain way,
because that seemed to be an ongoing issue around, I guess, in other theaters.
Oh, that's interesting. I know I didn't understand Hobie Brown, some of his lines in the preview, but it was much clearer in the one that I saw. And they probably, and I'm wondering if maybe I saw it with the audio set correctly. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, right. So that is my one note. If you do find that when you go see the movie, you know, just like maybe just go talk to your projectionist. And Phil Lord actually in his tweet, he tells people like, go tell the projectionist the sound's supposed to be set at this. They give you any pushback, tell them Phil Lord said so.
Tell them Phil Lord.
He actually said that.
I know every projectionist in America was like, come on, man. But yeah.
Yeah, real true, real talk. So, okay, we buried the lead. We would definitely recommend.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I haven't seen the first one in years, and I saw it was like on a random channel, but my cable was like, no, you can't just watch it from the beginning. Like, did y'all watch the first one again before seeing the second one?
I didn't watch it immediately, but I can guarantee you, because it is a perennial favorite of my household, I've seen it in the past 2 months. And I've seen it a lot. So, like, are there any questions you have about any aspect of the first movie?
I didn't see it going in, and I was like, man, should I? And this is just a me thing. The last time I did that, where I was like watching a bunch of movies back to back before I saw the new one, was John Wick, and I was like, I just saw too much murder in a day, so I'm not doing that again. But like watching that second one made me want to go back and watch the first one, because the way that they refer to it, I'm like, this story can't be that tight.
It is actually that tight. It is. You know, I have to say, the plot point, and they play fair. The plot point of the spider being from the other universe,
it's all right there.
It's all right. It is there.
All right there.
But I thought that 42 referred to, this was the 42nd spider they had experimented on.
I saw a tweet that said that like the comic book Miles Morales, it is the 42nd experiment.
Right.
But this one is from a different, it's different than the comic. Yeah.
Well, it glitches. It actually glitches in the movie.
In the first one.
In the first one, I do remember it glitching.
Which they let you know, if something is glitching, that means it's from another. And then the beautiful subtlety is that people have already stitched. I have to admit, I've had a research assistant for this episode. My daughter has been all over TikTok, and she's showing me different things. When Miles' spider sense goes off the first time.
Are you talking about this movie or the first one?
In the first movie, when Miles meets R.I. Peter.
Yes.
And their spider sense goes off at the same time. Miles' spider sense lines are purple and green. They don't turn red and blue until R.I.P. Peter dies. So he actually has a spider sense from the other universe. And then when Peter dies, he sinks, and he's this universe's Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
And they set this up in the... It was amazing. Like, it's so amazingly...
Well, real quick, for people that don't know, what is this, this... Why is it unique that his spider sense is first purple and green?
Because he's been bitten by the spider from what we're calling the Prowler universe.
Right.
Because when he goes at the end, it's all purples and greens, because this is the Prowler universe. And as Miguel tells him, you are an anomaly because you were bitten by a spider that was meant for someone in that universe.
Right.
But they brought the spider he's from 1610.
Right.
And they bite him. And it's
and the purple and green is the colors of the Prowler.
Of the Prowler.
The villain.
Right. And I was just amazed at the audacity of them seeding that in the first one.
Wow.
In a film that there's no way no one knew it was going to be this.
No, because in the first one, when you see the spider glitch, you just assume it's the radioactivity.
Right.
Right. If you even notice the color of his spider sense, because there's so much madcap animation happening, you're thinking it's just a stylistic choice.
Right.
You don't know it's storytelling happening in front of your eyes.
Look, even in this one, the second time watching it, when he's in 42's bedroom, if you look around the bedroom, there's a speed bag.
Well, you notice subtle differences.
And there's a record player because Uncle Aaron is still alive.
Yes.
So all of those Aaron influences you actually see in his bedroom.
Right. And there's subtle differences because when mom opens the door, if you pay attention behind her in the rest of the apartment, there's subtle differences there too.
Yeah.
I kind of know. That's what I kind of noticed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, oh, something is a little wrong.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, from the time she was like, when he was like, I'm Spider-Man, she was like, who's that? I was like, oh yeah, it's a different universe. Because remember, they were talking about Spider-Man earlier in the movie, saying, "Oh, they said he's Puerto Rican." He was like, "No, I think he looks Dominican to me." Like, that was a little joke, but again, a little joke that really speaks to the Latinx experience in this country and end of New York City. I will say,
yes. Yeah. Oh
I've
yeah.
seen
very
many.
much.
I've seen many a high school fight between Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. All in good fun, obviously, but like, yeah.
Oh my God. Any last thoughts about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? Darryl.
It's a really good movie, man. Yeah, it's really good. You should see it. Bring a friend. Bring your family.
Bring a family.
Oh, I will say, DC for years, everybody would say, oh, Marvel is killing it in the movies, but when it comes to animation, DC is taking them to town. And they showed up with Spider-Man and said, listen, y'all need to fix how you say my name.
They do.
Put some respect on it.
Though, to be fair, this is Sony with a deal with Marvel.
Right.
So, Sony is like, yo, put some respect on our name as well.
Well, and also Sony does not want to lose the Spider-Man franchise, and they will if they ever, wait too long. So,
right. Yeah. I have to say, I was guardingly sort of optimistic about this because I think what made the first one work so well, and we talk about this all the time, where these films kind of come out of nowhere and they're amazing films. And part of the reason that they work is because, as I always talk about, the lunchbox people, like the lunchbox and pajama people, aren't paying attention.
Right.
So then the filmmakers and the artists can actually create their art. And I was a little concerned that there were going to be more lawyers and accountants,
kind of like
and the lunchbox people involved. So I have to give credit where credit is due to the execs, to the people in the C-suite who decided to let these artists create. Because this is a masterpiece.
It is.
This is actually a masterpiece. And there's a lot of talk about, is this even better than the first one? Which I think is a fair conversation to have.
Most certainly.
But in my mind, this is like saying that Miles Davis is a better musician than Louis Armstrong. Where like you could argue it, but part of the reason that Miles Davis is because he could stand on the foundation of Louis Armstrong. And in my mind, this just builds off of the first one. And Darryl, much like you, I'm very much looking forward to the third one.
Oh my goodness! Again, superhero movies, you still make movies. Like it does, like the Godfather 2 thing. Like it builds on the world. it builds, it adds, it, and just makes it flushes out characters that you wanted to see more of from the first one. Like, man,
without it bears repeating, without losing the lead.
Yeah,
right?
This is Miles' story
because they build up Gwen, but this is not an ensemble.
No,
this is still Miles' movie, right? This is still Miles' movie. Just a beautiful piece of art. And if you had said again, they're doing a sequel to this movie. The Spot's going to be the main villain. They are changing the directors.
Yeah.
From the first movie.
Yeah.
You would say, okay, that's enough to be like, and they're throwing in like a ton more like characters. You'll be like, all right, that's just enough to just be cautiously like step back a little bit, right? But then you're right. They nail it and they keeping the group intact. This is the exact same group that is doing the next movie, Beyond the Spider-Verse. Shout out to Joaquin DeSantos, who, like I said, a guy who cut his teeth in an animated cartoon TV series, Streets. I believe this is maybe his feature film debut. If not, it's hard pressed to find another thing that he's done better than this, dog. Because you murdered it, son. You murdered it. This was just a joy to behold. I love Ken Powers. I could just imagine. I imagine a lot of that character building is him, because that was a lot of what Soul was.
Right. And just like that sort of abstract aspect of Soul, which I love so much.
Yeah,
you pick up immediately from when Gwen is playing the drums, and you see that imagery.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay.
Oh yeah. Speaking of the drums, yo, if you like the movie, get the soundtrack.
Yeah,
because like the original, the soundtrack is ridiculous. It is
Metro Boomin.
Yes, no joke.
There's a Spider-Man in there.
Oh yes,
yeah, Metro Boomin. Yeah, I think that's him. It says there's no way out.
Yeah, yeah.
My bad, y'all. There was a way out.
Oh my God. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After you see that,
yes,
make your way to Philadelphia on June 30th so that you can be front seat at Punchline to see the sexiest comedian in America, dare I say the world.
The world.
DARRYL CHARLES, ladies and gentlemen, of the DTF Fun Hour, which is where he
to speak about DTF, the Darryl and Timaree Fun Hour. We're having our 10th anniversary show on the 24th at Frankie Bradley's. So
get out of here.
Come for the sex fun game show.
Yes, the DTF Fun Hour is a podcast now that has fun talking about sexuality, sexual topics in America, deep, serious topics. Like they go in on their topics, but they have so much fun. Darryl and Timaree both have their bona fides in comedy, but also in the sexual education
right
space.
Yeah, that's Dr. Timaree, who has a doctorate in human sexuality. So she knows what she's talking about.
She does. But then when they do their live show, I don't think you've ever gone to.
I've not been blessed yet.
Vincent, it is ridiculous because then they take their show and turn it into a game show.
All right.
It is so much fun.
It's highly interactive. We've had plenty of times when people in the audience would just stop us and be like, wait, explain this or ask a question. So yeah, we have fun with it. We talk about sex and gender, but the conversation goes everywhere because that is something that is the reason why we're all here. So it jumps into every aspect of life, and we're not afraid to talk about it, and we have fun. And it's going to be a game show. We're going to have Gonna have some dancers. It's gonna be a good time.
Oh, there you
Very
go.
nice.
There you go. June 24th at Frankie Bradley's in Philadelphia, the DTF Fun Hour live. And then you can check Darryl Charles at Punchline Comedy on June 30th live.
Yeah,
Front
June 30th,
seat.
July 1st. My first Friday, Saturday in Philadelphia. Let's do it. Show up. I have really good jokes. I have an album, Black Gentrifier. You can listen to it. Nothing I said on the album is going to be in this next show. So,
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right now. And we will put the links in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. We'll even add the links to our website so you can check it out. If you listen to us, you can go by way of the Micheaux Mission to connect with Darryl Charles, comedian Darryl Charles. Darryl,
Yes,
who is
please.
a big fan of our show. Thank you for your devotion and a great friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
tonight,
Darryl.
man.
Thank you so much for having me. If you could have saw me cracking up as Len gets so mad at Vince for nailing every 6 Degrees of Derval Martin, and then all the conversations about the whites only movies that Len had to bring up. Just a good time. I wish you gentlemen nothing but the best. It's a great show, and I'm so happy I'll do it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, D, man. I will be talking to you, brother. We're going to let you go.
Man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week and our special guest next week.
Yeah.
The emails may have to wait for another week, ladies and gentlemen. I invite you to follow the Micheaux Mission, 2 Men, 1 podcast, every black film ever made. Go to micheauxmission.com to check out all of the cool designs that we have by way of clicking swag. Go over to our shop, where you can check out all the cool designs and shirts and Derval Martin collection that we have by way of our good friends at TeePublic. Did you notice that Darryl had on his Derval Martin shirt when we went to the screening?
Notice when we went to the screening.
When we went to the screening. He was proudly emblazoned
That's right.
Derval Martin. There you go. So that was very cool. If you like the Micheaux Mission, follow the Micheaux Mission on all the social medias, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, at Micheaux Mission. You can also subscribe to the Micheaux Mission on YouTube at Micheaux Mission. Help us get our numbers up. We're trying to make our way to 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there. We're creeping closely, but help us get there, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate it. We stream every week from the Video Content Factory, Philadelphia's premier podcast palace here in Manayunk, PA. All right. You can also reach the Micheaux Mission. You can email us at micheauxmission@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail.
Leave us a voicemail.
Like Calvin. So you can't make fun of it. Calvin left us a voicemail. And you can too. 215-867-9666. Did I get that number right, Dylan? There you go. 215-867-9666. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us what's on your mind, ladies and gentlemen. We play the voicemails right here on air. So why don't you do it? I think I see Darryl picking up the phone even as we speak.
I don't think you do.
You just couldn't go with it.
I mean, I'm looking at him. I was making sure I wasn't hallucinating. Oh, no. He did. Oh, he did pick up the phone.
And the Micheaux Mission, as always, is a proud member of the Podglomerate Podcast Network. The Podglomerate, they make podcasts work. All right. Next week, Vincent.
Yes.
Here on the Micheaux Mission, we buried the lead.
Yeah.
Darryl Charles was also one of our very special guests who took part in the class of 1989 podcast miniseries.
He is. I talk about Darryl's observation of being a child of Hoke all the time.
You do. Yes, you do.
Bringing season here, and I got to ask that old white woman to go and pee.
The class of 1989 is available wherever you get podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. And Darryl was very, very cool to be a part of that. Another gentleman who was a prominent voice on the class of 1989 will be our guest, making his actual Micheaux Mission debut.
Yeah.
As we welcome noted film critic Tim Coggeshall.
Yes.
Here on the Micheaux mission to join us in celebrating the career of the recently departed Jim Brown from in 1969's 100 Rifles.
Yeah.
Which he stars alongside the other sex symbol of the 60s, because Jim Brown was definitely one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other one was one Raquel Welch.
Right. Would you not say the third big star was one of the sex symbols? Or was he not a sex symbol yet?
He's not a sex symbol yet. He becomes the sex symbol in the 70s.
Sex symbol on the horizon.
On the horizon.
Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. 100 Rifles.
100 Rifles, that's right.
As we dip into Vincent's favorite genre, Westerns, next week here on the Micheaux Mission. Until then, he's Vincent, I'm Len, and in parting, we say,
we'll see you when it's time to meet again.